How do you fix flaws in a lacquered finish? I've got a customer who doesn't want to refinish this whole thing, but has a small budget to do some minor repairs. I'm going to show you how I fix that and give this piece some new life. Hi, I'm Scott. I design, build, and repair woodworking pieces. I'm opening up the doors to my shop to help you become a better woodworker. Just a word of caution, lacquer and lacquer thinners are flammable, and they're also very bad to breathe in. Right on the label it says, do not breathe the fumes of this lacquer thinner. So you need to make sure you're wearing a respirator with an organic cartridge that has carbon filters. That will protect your lungs from the damage this can do. You also want to make sure none of this contacts your skin, so a good pair of rubber gloves. Disposable ones this will typically eat through, so a good thick pair is what you'll need. On the bench seat, somebody has set something here that's eaten away at the finish. If we look real close, you can see there's a flat area that has virtually no finish, and it's pretty thick on either side of that. So what I need to do is get rid of this transition here and make it nice and smooth so I can put a top coat on this and make that disappear. A lacquer finish can be dissolved with a lacquer thinner. What I'm going to do is soften up the finish around the damaged area and then use a brush to pull that finish into the damaged area and essentially level out that valley I've got there so it's less pronounced, and I can put a top coat over top with less visibility of that scar. If you're not sure what finish you're using, make sure you check out our video up here on wood finish identification. You need to make sure you're using the right solvent for the finish. In our case, this is a lacquer finish, so we're using lacquer thinner. I use a syringe to apply the lacquer thinner to the edge of the finish I'm looking to soften up. As I go around this, I only have a few seconds before the finish starts to soften. I haven't changed the timing on this video at all, so you're seeing in real time how quickly this softens up. At this point, the finish is getting hard already, so I need to move quicker. And you'll see that the brush marks are more defined. After about 2 minutes of drying time, the finish is too glossy to really see what's going on, so I use some extra fine steel wool to knock it down so I can understand what the finish is looking like. I'm not happy with the edge, so I do it a second time. I go a little wider this time and brush a little faster and pull that finish into the center. Again, I knock back the finish with some fine steel wool, just to understand how it's looking and get an idea of how flat the surface is. I now use a rag with lacquer thinner to go over the whole space and understand how that finish is coming out. When this dries in just a few seconds, you'll see the gloss and showing where the flaws are. What I've got to do here is pull in more of that finish and get rid of those edges. So I'm using lacquer thinner on a rag this time to push and pull the finish around. It's something that only takes a few seconds to get through. Wait for it to dry about 2 minutes and then come back and do it again. I'm happy with the edges now. You can see how flat they are relative to the spots that are untreated and I haven't leveled out yet. So I've just finished rubbing down the top here with some really fine steel wool to get rid of any humps or bumps. Before I put the top coat on, I want to conceal some of these marks here. And to do that efficiently and quickly, I just use a touch-up marker. This isn't perfect in terms of doing a job like this, but on a budget, this is only taking seconds to do versus something where I'd mix up a stain to match. So on a budget, touch-up markers and a fresh coat of finish on top here should finish this job up. The finish dried overnight, and I didn't anticipate how thirsty the veneer was in here, so I need a little bit more finish in these spots. So what I've done is I've taken 400 grit sandpaper and sanded the whole thing down. I'm going to spot spray these areas here, build up a little more finish, level it out with sandpaper, and then give it one final coat. This is where I've sprayed 5 coats of finish. So in here I've got a little bit of puddling, and I'm just going to level that out. I put this in the light here so you can see some of the imperfections of where I sprayed. I'm going to level this out with blades. What I do is take a fresh blade out of my pack here, so it's nice and sharp. And this is a great way to level out any finish, and use it like a card scraper. What this does is gives a large reference surface for the leveling, and what it's doing is taking off only the high spots on this finish. Now a quick rub down just to get rid of the gloss and get it ready for that final coat of finish. Last step before the final finish is to rub it down with a tack rag. If you've never used a tack rag before, I really recommend these. It's a sticky material that picks up any dust that's on the surface. So even after you vacuum, you'll still pick up little bits of dust. So tack rag your work and get a nice clean finish. Here's what that original mark was, and you can see the difference now in the finish. So I'll lift this up, and you can see that finish has come up pretty well. The total time I put into this project was about 90 minutes, not including the drying time. The great thing about working with lacquer is it dries very quickly. The downside is it's very toxic, and you need to work in a well-ventilated area with a respirator on. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe below. Until next time, enjoy your time in the workshop.